Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to Dumb SEO Questions, episode 253. Each week we gather here to answer the questions asked on the SEO Questions community on Google Plus and the Dumb SEO Questions group on Facebook. With us tonight we have Micah Fisher-Kirshner, Senior SEO Director, is it, or is SEO Head of SEO for Zendesk.com in the United States. Micah resides in the west coast of the USA. And Tim Capper is CEO of OnlineOwnership.com. He is also a Google top contributor on the Google My Business community. He's proud to call himself an SEO. He's a conversion rate optimization specialist. He resides in Corby, 90 miles north of London. And William Rock hails from Kansas in the USA. He's proud to call himself an SEO. You can find William Rock at williamrock.com, I think. Yep. Okay. All right. We have a few questions tonight. Let's get into them. This one from JL Faverio, who was very kind to me today. He sent me an email saying we're doing all the right things on our Facebook group. All right. I meant to edit this, but had a problem with it just before we got started. JL Faverio asked, do H3 tags have any real value? I seem to be doing fine with a single H1 and a few H2 tags per article. I tend to refrain from using H3 based on the difference in style, but I can just CSS it to match the H2. Your thoughts, guys?
Yeah, generally I'd go with not really. I think, they're better for just structure, as Jenny Halal mentioned in the comments. For the most part, any potential value that's gained is going to be so minor or so merged in with other stuff that it's going to be hard to really attribute it to anything. What I would consider instead as the way to look at it is how to, I think actually in the way that Alan Blayway mentioned, which is the structure of your page. So one of the things I usually like to do is think about it from you're building essentially a thesis paper, and how you structure all of the sections and subsections and subheaders is one of the ways that it makes it look better, makes the code kind of a little more structured and clear for Google to understand. So I usually think of it just as trying to make it have more sense, but it's so minor that I highly doubt you'll find any real value just actually adding one.
Thank you, Micah. Anyone with anything to add to that? Right, let's move on to the next. I also thank Roger Monty and Jeremy Noah, and who else was there? Let me just see. Alan Blue Eyes, and Curtis Melanson said 5 paragraphs per page, H1 to H5. I don't know. I'd love to ask Curtis if he were here, where did he get that from? But anyway, I'd like to see more challenges in our Facebook group. Nobody would get away with that on the old SEO Questions community. Anyway, let's move on to the next. Josu Sanchez Anelda has a question titled Marketing Schema Structured Data. Josu said, hi, I'm marketing schema structured data with the help of a plugin. I'm marking schema structured data with the help of a plugin, but I'm still not sure what to write on the article body field. I thought I would just have to copy the full text with the content of the article, but I've read somewhere that I should write instead a summary with only the H2 and H3. A very dumb question, but please could somebody help? Thanks.
Well, there isn't actually an article body within schema markup. Do they perhaps mean description? Because there is a description field in schema markup, but that, you know, I mean, you could actually do, or hang on, if you're marking up for a web page, there is a thing for body copy. But it doesn't mean copy and paste the entire article body, which I have seen some people do.
In the comments, Phil Swalstein notes that the article body is the actual body of the article, the non-HTML, no ads, no sidebars, footers, headers. So,
okay.
Yeah, it's just kind of, again, it's just structure to help kind of define parts of your site more clearly.
Gosh, I'm just thinking, if that page, if let's say it's an article, say 1,000 words, and then you're doing the entire body copy within the schema mark, yeah, I mean, it's going to be, it would have read the entire frickin' article before in your structured data before it even got to your page. But I suppose that's the point, actually. As Bill said, it's not, you know, it doesn't include the advertisement, it doesn't include, it's the pure body copy. So I suppose that's, yeah.
If you're using a JSON that does get a little large for just that script versus if you had an in-page. So there's that side of it. I mean, I just, like you said, it makes sense as to filling it out. I mean, yeah, a bit much to like put everything in.
Okay. All right. I'm not sure that if I'd been even using that, but anyway. Neil Cheeseman said, again, changing URL structure as the title. He said, or he asked, advice, please, on WordPress URL structure, permalinks, etc. Website with 6,000 plus posts. Basically, I don't believe the website has the best URL structure and could do better, albeit that what a pain in the butt changing the permalink structure could be and would be. Also, is there a way to not lose social sharing of unique URLs? And also, if anybody's linking to it, if you change the permalink structure, you're probably going to lose the value of the site. The site is in Google News, and partly due to this, the URL structure was set news/percentage post ID, post name, and a couple of years ago, Google News did away with the need to have 3 digits minimum in the URL as news 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 / here's the weekend. You can view these links in the Facebook community in SEO Questions. The problem is that the permalink doesn't include category, and the only place that items are listed in a category are on pages in the category archive. The site publishes in these categories news, reviews, interviews, and tickets. Looking at the top site in this niche and looking at it logically in terms of siloing or grouping, I believe the best way forward would be to have permalinks as follows, which I would believe to be /category/post name, /news/name. Is there any need for a number? /reviews, /name of reviews, /interviews, /name of interviews, /tickets. But what then of the previous social shares, which would all go to zero due to different URL structure? Is there a plugin that resolves this and backlinks all wrong? Redirect with 301 6000 plus posts, or simply redirect those URLs with backlinks. Suggestions as to the best way forward in biting this bullet. Oh boy, I'd be letting this site stay as it is and building a new site, and over time choose which one to keep.
Well, the first thing is you can redirect all those. You can redirect all those old URLs to the new URLs in your HT access. That's not really a problem. So once you've decided on your new structure, you create, you know, it's not a problem. As for the social shares, I thought most of them are getting rid of the accounts anyway. Facebook has, Google Plus has. I think Twitter still left theirs. So those are going to go anyway.
It's definitely a tricky one. You know, when you start to think about it, you've got 301s that you're going to have to set, and then making sure like you're scrubbing your site with like link sleuth, Xenu, so you can look for all the broken links afterwards. But you might have a little bit of a mess when you switch it over.
Yeah. Why didn't? Yeah.
You know, the other thing I would do, you know, in this case with that many URLs, go ahead.
Could they not retain those URL structures for the old ones and then just create new ones moving forward?
Yeah, and you could just basically pull the sitemap of those news categories, right? So you know exactly what pages are there already exist, and put it in a spreadsheet and drop the new URLs in. And then export it as an XML.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I would probably start with, you know, like SEMrush, with grabbing a site audit, making sure you have everything indexed before you make the change, and then make the change and then run another site audit so that basically SEMrush can find those URLs for you too, and you can export.
I suppose here's the question also: how much traffic do these articles bring you? You know, on a monthly basis, how much traffic do these guys bring you? Is it a small fraction of the site? If it's a large chunk of your traffic, you know, it may not be too wise to change it this far down in the game. I don't know.
Especially with holidays coming up, if you're relying on a little bit of your traffic for even the holiday season, that's going to be kind of a scary thing. I would probably do it after the shopping season, depending on your business.
If it only equates to a tiny percentage.
In the general scheme of things, what is the value of a URL structure, and what is the penalty for having a bad URL structure? It's sort of a margin thing, isn't it? It's hardly the be all and end all. Yeah. The Googlebot will swallow just about anything.
True, and these are news articles, so it's not as if it's a it's not as if it's the actual, it's not as if it's the actual, you know, it's like an e-com site where you've got your categories and your subcategories within an actual product. These, I believe, is news articles. So ultimately, they're all just news articles or write-ups about, I suppose, the theatre or different things or whatever the case may be. So in that sense, they're all sitting on that old structure, which Google probably has pretty well figured out that these are just news articles.
Well, going back into the actual question, I was looking at how many posts they have, and it's like 6,000 plus posts, right? But then they also have in the first part of the example, they show news / and then kind of one of those broken URLs with spaces. So, and then going to the news / 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as an example, right? So they want to actually go to because a lot of times, you know, browsers they've gotten a lot better with those type of queries where it's just basically fills it in with the % post _ID, right? Actually, no, I was thinking something wrong. Sorry, I back up. So basically, it's just a % post _ID. So it's still pulling from the WordPress and creating that ugly looking post directory, so to say. So I think controlling that would be nice. It'd be a lot easier for sharing in social long term. Just a thought.
Yeah, I'd be only attempting this on a brand new site and link the two together and just hope that it all stands up. Otherwise, I'd leave it alone. Then again, I'm lazy.
Well, the other thing I'd be doing is checking, like Tim was mentioning, checking your analytics and seeing does these pages actually have traffic, and if so, you know, that's the next thing I would check to see is are they making their goal pages? Are they converting into something that makes sense for the business?
Yeah. Okay. All right, are we right to move on to the next? Okay, our next SEO question from Josu Sanchez Anelda. It's titled Buying Full Articles on Other Websites. Josu said that I've seen many competitors buying full articles on other websites where they can put a link back to them. How safe is that? So far, the websites which I have spotted doing this are growing positions without any penalty. The articles look natural because the full article is talking about a topic related to their linked site. Is this a normal practice? It's not nice to talk about it, but it seems like everybody is doing it. There are some fields in which getting natural links is almost impossible.
Right, so look, at the end of the day, in theory, all those links should be no followed because you're paying the site. So in theory, there should be no follow. Ultimately, if Googlebot ever goes down the road and goes, hey, okay, I've looked at your article, it's a followed link. I can see that this is, you know, you can actually physically pay to put your articles on here. Boom, therefore this one's against guidelines. Okay, so you're looking at, you know, either completely, you know, devaluing them at some point in time, or if you really went to town with it, you're looking at a potential manual penalty. So that's the crux of that. Okay. What I'm going to, you know, look, if you're going to spend, you know, money for someone else to write an article on their site, and you're paying them for them, or you have to write it and then submit it and pay them to publish it, whatever the case may be, the point is you're putting some form of either physical effort into writing the article or a monetary value, which can also then be equated to labor. The point is you are spending time and money for someone else to publish an article which may never, ever, ever send you any traffic. So what is the point? What is the point? Spend your time and money and efforts publishing on your site that your users want to read, to attract the traffic on your site, you know, benefit your users, not someone else's users. Yeah, and then you say, oh yeah, but it's a link. Well, you need to really analyze links. You know, is it the be-all and end-all? You know, you spend X amount of time. You spend X amount of time creating one link. Let's, for argument's sake, say it's Jim. What are you doing, mate? He's having a go with his headphones and speakers and all sorts here. Anyway, so the point here is, you know, do one. Take one, for example. Do one, test one for yourself. So let's say you spend 150 bucks, okay? And that could be the actual physical money, plus including the time you took to write it or whatever the case may be. And go and publish it on one of these sites, okay? Then at the end of the day, sit back and say, right, okay, how much traffic did I get from that? You know, give it a month, give it a 2 months. How much traffic did I actually get from that, right? Because now we're saying it's one link, right? So you got to say one link, which will do naff all for you, unless this is like some, you know, like rock star of a freaking page. But anyway, so you get one link. You've spent either that time or energy getting that done, and say, right, how much traffic did that bring me? Then you work out the value of that. If you had published that on your site for your readers, right, it's adding value to your site, it's adding value to your users, right? And it costs you the same amount and it's benefiting you rather than you just throwing this away. So test it out for yourself if you think I'm mental.
I think it's a good point. A lot of good points you make there. You know, what is the purpose that you're getting this article written for? And then is that for rankability? Like old articles were saying, hey, get an article posted, kind of like, you know, private blog networks. That's kind of the whole concept of I'll pay you $100. Here's the article, and now I get a link back with an anchor text, you know, that's going to get me that #1 spot on Google. And that's just not the case anymore. You know, I think that's where the algorithms have really kind of played in, and they know it. I mean, it's machine learning. So there's a lot of documentation behind, you know, some of these algorithms. Just type in on Google, go out and type in Google algorithm updates, you'll come up with Moz. You know, he's got a whole archive of everything that's happened all the way back to, I think, 2000. So you can kind of get a good history of what the success rate was for those type of people in the beginning, and then for those type of article spinning. Not to say you're trying to spin an article, but it's a matter of, that's kind of like the techniques that were used a long time ago that are kind of been suppressed by filters.
I mean, the thing is, you know, I've just seen this time and time and time and time again, where a client comes to you and you know, when a new client comes and you know, you look at the site, and literally it's the bare bones of a site, a little bit of content on their site, user content. But then you look at the link profile, and they've, you know, the previous SEO was doing, you know, buying articles. You know, some okay, some maybe not so okay. Just, you know, hundreds of them, you know, 150, 200, 300, 400 for a little pissy site, and the site's not doing anything. And then the guy goes, oh, well, look, you know, this other guy, he built all these links. And I'm like, yeah, but you see, this is not the point. Because these are either being totally ignored, or, you know, you may be algorithmically suppressed because of these. And at the end of the day is you correct your site, you put some, you know, good content onto your service pages or your product pages, depending on what they are. You know, you make sure the site structure is structurally sound. When I say content, it's content that, you know, allows the user to make a purchasing decision of that product, you know, not just some happy marketing bump like, oh, you know, come and look at our pink fluffy elephant, it's so soft. No, you know, you go to town, your technical specs, your tech specs, and that's mere pink fluffy. You know, and you fix the site up, and then you create a content plan for yourself, you understand what your users want, and you start publishing that stuff on your site. And lo and behold, you know, this is not magic. And lo and behold, if you've got the site structure and everything right, lo and behold, if you start publishing stuff for the user, you know, whether it be a combination of articles or YouTube videos, or depending on, you know, who your user is, you'll see what makes sense. Lo and behold, your site actually starts improving. It's like not rocket science.
Except, Tim, how do you handle a client after the first 3 months when he actually goes down because of the removal of dodgy links? How do you placate that client?
Well, you've generally discussed all the options with them beforehand. You've discussed all the things, and it's a situation of saying, look, these are potentially toxic and are going to be a problem for you. So we're going to remove them now, and we're going to have massive fluctuations over the next 6 months whilst we try and rectify this and sort your site out.
And it all depends on how bad those links are too.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is,
you might not see a drop, but yeah.
I mean, the thing is, for Josu, go do my one, you know, my one article link, you know, test. Go and grab one. Go and pay for one. Go and chuck it on a site, right? Work out that actual amount of either labor hours you spent writing it and paying to put it on, and then at the end of it, you know, analyze it for a month to 2 months and say, right, was that actually worth it, or should I actually spend that amount of labor hours and time or physical money paid for to put it to expend that onto my site for my users? And you'll have your answer, mate, pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Great point.
Good answer, Tim. Okay, let's and Josu, I hope you take that on board. It's painful to see competitors getting away with bastardry, but long term, well, there's been some instances where the long term is much longer than it should have been, but every dog has his day. Anyway, let's go to the next. This one from J. Alfaverio. My page is no longer in the first page. J. Alfaverio said, I did a blog post focusing on Bay Area marketing tips, and in 24 hours it was #1. Now, 2 days later, I can't even find it on the first 10 pages. What is that all about?
Well, assuming you're doing this properly within incognito or privacy mode, new content sometimes will show up right away. Google might give it a little test and chance, and then it starts to slide off as it says, well, this content hasn't either performed well, doesn't have any links versus the others. Is this really an appropriate site? So there's possibilities of just, depending, of course, of how uncompetitive potentially the term is, how something shows up versus when it doesn't. I would kind of say, you want to see how things go. A lot of it is very fluctuates, right, for some new stuff at the start, and then not flattens out. It solidifies to whatever new position it's going to be in the long run. I haven't actually ever checked how competitive such a phrase of Bay Area marketing tips may be, so it's tough to say, right? right off the bat, because obviously for more competitive queries, it's not really going to show up. But again, you also have to see about what area you're in. If you hit a specific data center, where it might be on one data center at a higher position versus another. There's possibilities when you're going a lot further. I'm trying to have a post that shows up specifically within a local market. Those types of things, can actually play a bit more for why you see such fluctuations early on.
Yeah, and just to add to that a little bit, I would also go back in your Google Analytics for the time period you saw yourself showing up for, and just follow the visitor path. Look at where they went, how long did they stay on the page when Google was giving you that traffic. So looking back at that visitor experience, the journey, and seeing if when they were typing in that query and going to that page, they might have gotten irrelevant landing page. So what I'm going after is, maybe there's something else you can do for that landing page to drive more trust, I guess you can say, to get that you are that authority, to get that ranking. But yeah, like Micah, you said, even in Google Webmaster Tools, you'll see the bump where Google's going to give you these impressions and these opportunities for the clicks, and eventually you might see those disappear. But then if you do your, instead of just looking at the query, look at your page, and then go back. So when you're inside there, just switch over to the button page, and then when you're looking at that, then drop back into the query results, so you can see the pages that are actually in there. So when you drop down and click on the link, it'll tell you all the queries that were in that grouping. So if you're trying to show up for that landing page and say, okay, it was ranking, now it's not ranking, there might be something into those pages that could be fine-tuned.
Yeah, I'd also say, build content around that. So, you've created the page on marketing tips. Now, that's generally quite a short tail sort of thing, because you're trying to get people anywhere sort of in the Bay Area, even if they don't search with Bay Area, to actually have your marketing tips appear. So it's a very short tail keyword, and it's probably one of the more competitive ones out there with whatever you're trying to do. So what you want to look at now is building that out into additional articles on the site. So let's say you've created your marketing tips. Now expand each section within there as separate articles, each one linking back to your marketing tips. So you're creating a silo for that overall marketing tip page to actually have some authority behind it, some meat on the bones behind it, and yeah, certainly.
All right, JL Faverio in the comments asks a follow-up question, which I think we should address. After being told about new content appearing high, then dropping, and then coming back again, he said, okay, now my blog post is back at #1 again. I'm going to learn from this pogo sticking and add more value to the post so it stays. But just to make sure, how can I truly check if my post is #1 and not showing based on my location? Brackets, it even goes at #1 from an incognito browser.
Yeah, but incognito now still takes in your location. So just on your account or whatever, just create an AdWords account. You don't even have to have it running. Into your AdWords account, use the tools, go into the tools section, the display preview, jump in there, and it allows you to chuck in your search term and select what city. So you could select from the Bay Area, you can select out, you can select wherever, and see what the actual search result is from a particular area.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Tim. That that's a free and easy, cheap way. Obviously you have to do it unless you invest in a in a position, in tracking tools.
Yep. All right. So we'll call this one an answer. Okay, let me tweet that, and we'll move on to the next and the last, I think. Another one from J. Alphaverio. Do you write page descriptions for tags or categories? This was a huge topic on the Facebook group. It went on and on. Anyway, J. Alphaverio said, do you index tags or categories in WordPress? If so, do you write page descriptions for them?
Okay, so for me personally, I obviously index my categories. Each category has their own unique title, and it also has its own description. I don't use tags, essentially because when I was using tags, even when they were no indexed, people just weren't actually using the tags to search for other articles, because I provide top 5 recent articles, and I also provide search. So what I found was nobody was actually using it, so there was just no point of me even using them. It's just on the thing, and there were no indexed anyway. Now on the flip side, where you've got a site, and a lot of sites, if for example, if it's built in WordPress, you can actually use tags almost as indexable or searchable by categories as such. It depends on the site. In that instance, if they are not no indexed, yes, you need to certainly write, have a proper title for that and have a proper description. And insofar as if you're using it as a landing page, I would also add body copy to that. Think of it as a category. If you're wanting that to appear as a category, in search, relevant to a particular search query, you certainly want to put some stuff onto it. So it all depends on how you're using it. Personally, on my regular site with a regular blog, I don't use the tags. They're no index, no followed, but categories certainly get a proper title and a description and a meta description.
Yeah. Oh, all right. I think it's going to be somewhat similar with Tim. I don't use tags. It's not my preference. I think categories gives a better explanation and understanding of all of your articles. I usually recommend kind of having a description of the tags, because then it's just a list of blog posts that I don't think is exactly helpful for some context users who might stumble across the page. I also try to limit categories if there's a situation where categories and tags are both present. I always provide the caution that oftentimes these things get blown out, and then you're creating issues with the site of a lot of junk pages. And so I always try to make sure that the number of categories or tags are limited in scope, that there's a set number that can only be generated as a way to prevent that going way out there. And the other thing is that if you're in a situation where you want to have both, do consider that you need to make sure that the categories and tags don't overlap, because then you're duplicating them. It's hard to differentiate. How are you defining a difference between what is a category page and what is a tag page? It's done. I've thought about kind of the ways that can be structured in the past. But I generally just say, all right, categories only. Don't use tags from a public standpoint. If you want to use it internally, from filtering, internal filtering, internal classification, or even some general interlinking between them that are not necessarily in the same category, perfectly fine. That would depend on the situation, but it's just my own general preference is just one set of categorization and not anymore. And even then, just a limited set.
All right. Anybody to add? Anybody with anything to add to any of that? All right.
Well,
go ahead.
I was going to ask a question to Micah real quick based off of, I mean, there's a lot of good stuff there. Would you also, in WordPress, I think that was what the question was in, is it, I guess, good practice or even usage to use like the Yoast Pro in this situation where you can then fine tune what you want, like such as tags or your categories, and then be able to add a little bit more of the SEO value or the landing page value?
I've not used Yoast Pro, to be honest. But I mean, if you've got a filter page, I think usually within just a category page, you can add your own content to them. You can always customize the page from the CMS. And I don't know if you need an extra Pro plugin for that. But then again,
the only reason I'm asking is if you have a large site and be able to do all that, possibly with a one dashboard thing versus having to go through page after page after page.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. I think at that point, I'd be looking at other CMSs if it's pretty large. You know, a whole content perspective when you're talking out. I'm thinking, so actually it's a good point. So I'm thinking, when I think of categories and tags, I'm thinking more for a limited set within the blog post type sphere or just a small blog. When you're talking at massive scales around content as a news organization, that's a whole, in my opinion, totally different context that I myself personally haven't had to delve that deep into. So for those that have worked in that area, it might be a better choice. I think a lot of these same issues might apply in that you don't want to overdo it. You know, I might start looking at what a lot of the larger news organizations do, whether it's like the New York Times, and how they handle these categorizations and the tags and how do they interlink all that stuff and defining what is the right architecture for all of that. But it's not my specialty when it comes to that area, so I can't give the best of answers for that part.
No, that was perfect, actually. That was very helpful. Thank you.
All right, let me tweet that and let's have a look. Oh no, I've already done that. Yeah, humans above. All right, it's that time again, guys. We've done it again. We've answered all of the questions asked in the SEO Questions community on Google+, and also the Dumb SEO Questions group on Facebook. Before we close off, though, if you've got a moment to discuss it, I'd like to know your views on this. There's a fair bit of discussion in our community on Facebook this week on simple questions and on people asking questions, then taking the comments back to repackage them, repurpose them as blog posts. And you know, my feeling was that if people take away peer-reviewed questions and answers from our Facebook community, how can that be a bad thing? If our purpose in life is, or our purpose here, I should say, is to help people find true enlightenment in the world of SEO, then somebody that repackages questions from our group is fine. That's my view anyway. But certainly,
I'm just asking for a link back to the Dumb SEO Questions site. That's all. No, provide citation credit for that. That would be nice.
Yeah, just spell my name right.
Well, let's be reasonable about that, okay?
Yeah, it's Tim Kappa, not Pink Fluffy Elephant Dude.
I thought it was CUN. Oh no, sorry, no, it was another one.
Look, you know, hey, the thing is, I bet you that's a legitimate way to you know, a perfectly legitimate way, as long as you cite it back. But it's a legitimate way of creating content, you know.
And actually, that's what I better get this right. I think it's. Let me just double check. There's a good point on this I want to make. Yeah, Deep Crawl does this for the Webmaster Hangouts with John Mueller. They have a little quick snippet of the chat and a sentence summarizing what the question was and what the answer was. And they do that for every week, which is a great kind of resource for people who may not be able to spend the hour or so. Oh, really, it's probably like more than that, but like the amount of time to listen through it, to find the thing they're looking for, to know what the questions were right there. And it's a nice thing. And so if people want to dive into each individual question, they can quickly see it. And that's a great resource, in my opinion. That helps for the context where people don't necessarily have the time or desire to watch through a whole video.
Can you put a link to that in the chat, Michael? I'd like to read look at that.
Yeah, I will get it shortly.
Now, another complaint that we had was that some of the questions are too simple.
Oh, look. Okay, so my little take on that was, well, the other bit was someone was saying, oh yeah, they're so simple, and you know, these people are just too lazy to do their own homework. No, because the whole point here is that you're giving up your own time. Nobody's asked you to come and answer questions. It's simple as that. Nobody's asked you to come and share your knowledge. It's a simple thing that, you know, we are just giving up an hour or a little bit more of our time to just help people out that are either who, you know, also have highly limited time. You know, they probably spend 15 hours a day working on their business, and now they've got that extra 16th hour where they're just trying to figure out, huh? I read this thing on H1 and H2s. What's the deal with that? You know, look, it's just about passing that on. And yes, some people may ultimately end up being lazy about it and just asking the question, but there may also be trying to reaffirm it. You know, you just type in, you just do a simple search on backlinks, right? How much disinformation is out there, and they're even Google selling AdWords for backlinks. So you see what I mean? Look, I don't think we're here to provide a little bit of, you know, in our own time, just some kind of you know, base level, so people can separate all the bullshit out with the normal facts. And no matter how simple it is, yes, it would be great if we got technical questions all the time, because some people just think, Jesus, what's this H1, H2 crap? I need some help with that, you know, because this is his 16th hour in the day that he's been, you know, because he's a grave digger or something, I don't know, but he just needs to know about H1s and H2s. So answer that, end of, move on to the next one.
Good on you, Tim.
Yeah, well, don't we call this thing dumb SEO questions? Not very, very difficult questions, only for eggheads.
Well, wasn't it SEO questions before Tim Kappa came along? No, it's been dumb SEO questions for from the outset. I put that to Dan Petrovic and said, would you come and get us started? And we'll ask dumb SEO questions for people who are not SEOs. But we've evolved. I think that we're respected in the SEO community, as we deserve to be, having posted about 4,000 answers over 5 years and not got one wrong. Although a couple of them are out of date. A couple of them have been superseded. I don't know how to address that.
Well,
anyway,
that's bound to happen given our industry. You know, the questions are transitory in nature.
Yeah, and that's another tip for anyone else like watching this in terms of how do I, you know, there was Jose and the other chap, was it don't know his name, but that's another thing, you know, relook or depending on your industry, go back, revisit your articles. I mean, God knows how many times I have to freaking update articles because 2 months down the line something's changed, or you know, it's a freaking pain in the scrotum. But the thing, go back and look at your articles. Are they still relevant? Especially with for his marketing, you know, his marketing tip article. Go back and use it. And I know it's finding the time, but hey, it's, you've got to repurpose them, re-update them. Another good way.
Cool. Oh well, we'll close this off, and we'll be back at the same time next week to do this all again. We thank you for your interest in what we do. Your participation makes what we do worthwhile. Thank you, and good night.